America's repair system is cracking, and most drivers will not notice until their own car dies. Vehicles are sitting outside shops for days, sometimes weeks, because there are not enough skilled mechanics left to fix them. The shortage is now counted in the hundreds of thousands, while repair bills keep rising and wait times keep stretching. But mechanics did not disappear overnight. They were buried in tool debt, trapped by flat rate pay, punished by warranty labor times, crushed by modern car complexity, and blamed for bills they barely profit from. America broke its fixers, and now every driver will feel it. The mechanic shortage is not some future problem waiting around the corner. It is already showing up in service departments, independent shops, fleet garages, dealership networks, and family driveways across the country. The clearest symbol is brutal. 6,004 dealership bays without technicians. Not 600, not 60, 6,000 places where a vehicle could be repaired, but there is no qualified worker standing there to do it. That number matters because cars are not optional in most of America. A broken vehicle can mean a missed shift, a late rent payment, a cancelled medical appointment, or a parent unable to get their kid to school. In a country built around highways, suburbs, delivery routes, long commutes, and almost no serious public transportation in many regions, Soha music-torn mechanics are not just service workers. They are part of the hidden infrastructure. The shocking part is how quickly the system becomes fragile. One missing technician does not sound like a national issue. 10 missing technicians inside one region creates delays. Thousands of missing technicians across dealership networks turn normal maintenance into a waiting list. A repair that used to take 2 days can stretch toward 2 weeks. Customers think the delay must be parts, shipping, scheduling, or bad management. Sometimes it is. Increasingly, the bigger answer is simpler. There are not enough trained people left in the building. Executives call it a shortage. Technicians call it the result of decades of bad decisions. Shops wanted skilled labor without paying skilled wages. Dealerships wanted constant productivity without real investment. Music auto manufacturers built more complicated vehicles while warranty times stayed brutally tight. Customers saw labor rates climb past $150 an hour, but the mechanic underneath the vehicle often saw only a fraction of that money. This is where the crisis begins. Empty bays are not empty because young people hate work. They are empty because the job stopped making financial sense. And once the money starts making no sense, the first system to collapse is the one most drivers never hear about: flat rate. Most people imagine mechanics are paid like regular hourly workers. A car comes in, the mechanic works for 6 hours, Torch a music a Torch, and the mechanic gets paid for 6 hours. That sounds normal. That is not how much of the auto repair industry works. A huge part of the industry runs on flat rate, also called flag hours. Under this system, a job is assigned a labor time. If the book says the job pays 2 hours, the technician gets paid for 2 hours. If the repair takes 45 minutes, the tech wins. If it takes 4 hours, the tech loses. On paper, it rewards efficiency. In reality, it can punish the exact people the industry needs most. Flat rate works best when the shop is full, parts are correct, jobs are predictable, and the technician is doing repairs they have seen dozens of times before. The problem is that modern repair work is rarely that clean. Vehicles arrive with intermittent electrical faults, no-code drivability issues, water leaks, software problems, network failures, bad sensors, seized bolts, rusted components, previous bad repairs, and customer complaints that are difficult to reproduce. That kind of work requires patience and diagnostic skill, yet the pay system often rewards speed over thinking. A technician might spend 4 hours chasing an electrical problem that only appears under certain conditions, then get paid music for 1 hour because that is all the job allows. Meanwhile, another technician who performs a common repair in 40 minutes music can make more money because the book pays better. The message becomes obvious inside the shop. Hard jobs are financial traps. Complex diagnostics can destroy a paycheck. Warranty work can eat a day. Slow seasons can leave a flat-rate technician standing beside an empty bay, earning nothing while still expected to remain available. This is not just unfair, it changes behavior. Skilled techs avoid the hardest repairs. Younger techs learn quickly that thinking does not always pay. The best diagnosticians, the people who can solve problems nobody else can, start asking why they should stay in a system that pays more for repetition than expertise. A shortage of mechanics is bad. A shortage of excellent diagnostic technicians is worse. Anyone can replace parts badly. Far fewer can understand why a modern vehicle is failing in the first place. Flat rate cracked the foundation. Warranty work smashed it harder. Warranty repairs expose the ugliest part of the mechanic pay system because the technician has almost no control over the situation. The manufacturer sets the labor time, the dealership follows the structure, the customer expects the vehicle repaired, the technician absorbs the pressure. That is why mechanics talk about warranty pay with so much anger. They are not complaining because they dislike work. They are angry because the labor time often does not match the real job. A repair can look simple on paper and become brutal inside the bay. A power steering rack might require draining fluids, removing axles, disconnecting suspension components, dropping a front differential, replacing the rack, reinstalling everything, refilling fluid, bleeding the system, performing an alignment, and calibrating a steering angle sensor. The real process can involve multiple systems, heavy parts, tight spaces, specialty tools, and cleanup. Yet, The warranty time may pay only 3 hours. A radio replacement can sound easy to someone in an office. Remove the unit, install the new one, program it, verify function, deal with software, and troubleshoot any communication issue that appears after the repair. The time paid might still be around 2 hours. If something goes wrong, the clock does not become generous just because the vehicle becomes difficult. Mechanics are forced into a ridiculous position. They did not design the vehicle. They did not engineer the failed part. They did not set the warranty labor time. They did not promise the customer the repair would be simple. Still, when the book time is unrealistic, their paycheck takes the hit. This creates a silent resentment that spreads across the industry. Every underpaid warranty job teaches a technician that loyalty to the brand may not be returned. Every impossible labor time tells them their real effort does not matter. Every complicated repair paid like a quick task pushes another skilled worker closer to leaving. Manufacturers want vehicles repaired correctly. Dealerships want customer satisfaction scores. Customers want their cars back fast. But the person actually doing the repair is often treated like the cheapest variable in the equation. That gets even sharper when customers see the labor bill. One of the biggest misunderstandings in auto repair is the labor rate. A customer sees a shop charging $150, $160, or even $200 an hour and assumes the mechanic must be making serious money. That assumption is completely wrong. The labor rate on the invoice is not the mechanic's wage. It is the shop's door rate. That money has to cover rent, insurance, service advisors, management, electricity, lift scan tools, diagnostic equipment, software subscriptions, environmental music rules, taxes, training, waste disposal, warranty, risk, building costs, and profit. Those costs are real. Running a legitimate repair facility is expensive. The problem is not that shops have overhead. The problem is that labor rates have climbed while many technicians say their share has barely moved. In older industry thinking, mechanics might expect something close to 1/3 of the door rate. If the shop charged $150 an hour, a strong technician might expect a much healthier portion of that value. Today, many techs say they receive less than 20% of what the customer pays in labor. That gap creates anger on both sides of the counter. The customer feels robbed because the bill is massive. The mechanic feels robbed because the bill is massive and they still are not getting the money. The shop says overhead is rising. The technician asks why the person generating the labor revenue is still fighting to afford life. This is why public anger often lands in the wrong place. A driver sees a $3,000 quote and thinks the mechanic is the villain. Then, the mechanic looks at their paycheck and wonders how they became the villain when they are not the one keeping most of the money. Parts pricing might find a part online for $3.66 after the shop quoted over $1,500 for parts. That feels outrageous, but the comparison is not always equal. Online parts may be low quality, delayed, incorrect, or not covered the same way through the shop. A reputable repair business has to consider fitment, delivery, speed, warranty, liability, and whether the vehicle can be returned safely. Still, even when the shop's price has a business explanation, the mechanic is rarely the person benefiting the most. Customers are squeezed, tour shops are squeezed, technicians are squeezed. The whole triangle is full of pressure. Then the youngest workers look at the entry cost and decide the trade is not worth it. The auto industry keeps asking why young people are not rushing to become technicians. The answer is sitting right in the math. A person can spend $20,000 to $30,000 automotive training, then they need tools. Not a small tool bag, not a few sockets from a discount store. A real technician is expected to build a serious tool collection, and that can mean another $10,000 to $20,000 or $30,000 over time. Some toolboxes alone cost as much as a used car. Now compare that investment with early pay. Many new technicians may see offers around a $19 to $21 an hour depending on region, shop type, and experience. Others start lower in lube, tire, or apprentice roles. A young worker can come out of school with debt, start buying tools on credit, and still earn wages that do not match the cost of entering the field. The broken equation is simple: spend $30,000 on school, spend another $30,000 building tools, then make around $30,000 in the first year. That is not a career ladder. That is a financial trap with grease and music on it. Tool debt deserves special attention because it is one of the most invisible burdens in the trade. A customer never sees the cost of the socket, scanner, impact gun, torque wrench, specialty puller, electrical snorts, testing kit, or storage box used on their vehicle. The shop may supply some large equipment, but many technicians are still expected to personally own a huge amount of what they use every day. A one-year technician owing $10,000 on tools is not rare enough to shock the industry. That is the problem. Debt becomes normalized before stability arrives. This discourages the exact people the industry claims music to need. High school students with mechanical talent look at the pay, debt, physical demands, an uncertain career path, then they compare it with warehouse work, delivery jobs, union trades, HVAC, electrical work, trucking, or even office roles requiring less personal investment in tools. The decision becomes obvious. Recruitment campaigns cannot fix bad math. A sign-on bonus cannot erase years of weak wages. A dealership cannot complain about empty bays while offering a future that starts underwater. Even if a new tech survives the entry cost, the job waiting for them is harder than ever. The old image of the mechanic no longer matches the real job. Today's technician is not just replacing belts and brakes. Modern vehicles are mechanical systems, electrical networks, software platforms, emission systems, safety systems, entertainment systems, and rolling computers packed into tighter spaces than ever before. A single repair can involve sensors, modules, cameras, calibrations, programming, turbochargers, hybrid batteries, high-voltage safety procedures, adaptive cruise systems, lane-keeping technology, electronic steering, advanced transmissions, and manufacturer-specific scan tools. Even basic work can require resets, relearns, updates, or diagnostic procedures that did not exist decades ago. The complexity has exploded, but the respect has not kept pace. Customers still ask why a repair costs so much when it used to be simple. Managers still push for faster turnaround. Manufacturers still write aggressive labor times. Some shops still treat training as optional. Meanwhile, the technician is expected to understand mechanical engineering, computer communication, wiring diagrams, fluid systems, software logic, and safety calibration. Tight packaging makes the frustration worse. Engineers often design vehicles for assembly speed, fuel economy, crash standards, emissions compliance, styling, and manufacturing cost. Repair access comes later. A part that should be reachable may sit behind layers of brackets, covers, hoses, shields, wiring, or suspension components. What looks like a small repair from outside the vehicle can become a half-day battle inside the bay. This is why the mechanics are overcharging argument misses the bigger reality. Vehicles became more complicated, tools became more expensive, training became more necessary, and mistakes became more costly. The industry needs highly skilled technicians more than ever. Yet, the pay structure often treats them like replaceable labor. Complexity without compensation creates burnout. Burnout without respect creates resignations. Resignations create longer wait. Longer waits make customers angrier. Angry customers make the shop environment worse. The cycle feeds itself. By the time management notices, the technician may already be gone. Money starts the problem, but bad management finishes it. Many technicians do not quit in one dramatic moment. They quit after years of ignored raises, broken training promises, missing shop tools, unrealistic expectations, and feeling like nobody in charge understands the job. A dealership can lose a technician long before the resignation is official. It happens when training keeps getting delayed. It happens when the shop refuses to buy equipment the tech needs to do the job correctly. It happens when management talks about productivity, but ignores bottlenecks. It happens when advisors overload the schedule, promise impossible deadlines, then pressure the technician when reality does not match the promise. A raise offered only after someone gives notice is not retention, it is panic. By that point, the employee already knows their value was recognized too late. Career development matters heavily in this trade because vehicles keep changing. A technician who is not trained becomes outdated. A shop that refuses to invest in training is not saving money. It is weakening music its own future. Manufacturer classes AS support diagnostic education, hybrid and EV training, software training, and structured mentorship are not luxuries. They are the difference between building a career and losing another worker. Shop culture also pushes people out. New technicians need guidance, not humiliation. Women entering the trade need safe workplaces, not disrespect or inappropriate behavior. Younger workers need a path, not years of being treated like disposable help. Experienced technicians need autonomy and proper equipment, not constant interference from people who have not turned a wrench in years. The industry cannot claim a labor shortage while making the environment hostile to anyone who might solve it. A trade that pushes out women, burns out young workers, frustrates diagnosticians, and ignores veteran techs should not be shocked when the pipeline dries up. People stay where they see a future. People leave where every year feels like a harder version of the last one. That brings the crisis to the human cost. Mechanic burnout is not just being tired after a long day. It is physical exhaustion, mental pressure, financial stress, constant blame, and the feeling that one mistake can destroy your paycheck or reputation. The work is hard on the body. Technicians spend years bending, lifting, reaching, pulling, crawling, standing on concrete, fighting rusted bolts, dealing with heat, cold, chemicals, noise, grease, fluids, sharp edges, and awkward positions. Hands get cut, backs wear down, knees take damage, shoulders weaken. A trade can age the body faster than the paycheck grows. Mental pressure is just as serious. Flat rate creates sheet music, constant urgency. Advisors want updates. Managers want hours. Parts delays interrupt workflow. Wrong parts waste time. Warranty jobs pay poorly. Diagnostics can be uncertain. A single comeback repair can erase trust. Her music every bay becomes a clock. Telling technicians to be resilient does not solve the problem. Resilience is useful when pressure is temporary. It becomes exploitation when the system uses toughness as an excuse to keep piling stress onto workers. A person can love fixing cars and still hate the conditions surrounding the work. That distinction is important. Many mechanics are not leaving because they lost passion for machines. They are leaving because passion does not pay rent, tool bills, medical costs, car payments, or grocery prices. Loving the work does not make a 10,000 tool debt disappear. Enjoying diagnostics does not make an unpaid 4-hour electrical chase acceptable. Pride in the trade does not repair a broken pay plan. Try Musica Tour. Burnout becomes dangerous for the industry because it removes experienced workers faster than schools can replace them. When a strong technician quits, the shop loses more than one employee. It loses pattern recognition, problem-solving memory, efficiency, mentorship, and the ability to handle difficult vehicles. A burned-out mechanic does not always leave auto repair immediately. Some move to fleet work, some enter heavy equipment, some go into HVAC, electrical, welding, Music Tour, trucking, industrial maintenance, or government jobs. Many do not stop working with their hands, they simply stop donating their skill to a system that undervalues it. The result lands on the customer next. The mechanic shortage will not hit America like a single disaster. Trotten Musica Tour, it will arrive through everyday inconvenience that slowly becomes normal. First comes the wait. A shop says the earliest appointment is next week, then 2 weeks, then diagnostics alone takes several days. Routine repairs stretch longer because the same few technicians are handling too many vehicles. Next comes the price. Labor rates rise because shops have to compete for scarce skill, cover overhead, and survive higher operating costs. Parts prices remain painful. Diagnostic charges become more common because modern vehicles require more time and equipment to evaluate properly. Customers already angry about inflation see a repair bill and feel attacked. Then quality becomes uneven. When good technicians leave and shops cannot replace them, weaker labor fills the gap. Quick lube mistakes, wrong fluids, bad parts, rushed inspections, and poor diagnostics music create more expensive failures later. One bad oil change or wrong transmission fluid can turn a small service of music into a major repair. Finally, transportation becomes less reliable for regular families. The wealthy can absorb delays, rent cars, pay dealer prices, or replace vehicles sooner. Working class drivers get trapped. They delay repairs, drive unsafe cars, and music use cheaper parts, skip maintenance, or park the vehicle because the bill is impossible. This is where the mechanic crisis becomes bigger than one industry. America depends on personal vehicles for work, school, food, healthcare, childcare, delivery, construction, commuting, and emergency mobility. If the repair system weakens, the entire economy feels it. The cruel irony is that the same people blamed for high repair bills are often not the ones getting rich. Mechanics are caught between angry customers and profit-driven systems. Customers are caught between expensive vehicles and expensive repairs. Shops are caught between rising overhead and scarce labor. Manufacturers are caught selling complex machines that require technicians they did not help protect. Everyone feels squeezed, but the technician has the easiest exit: leave, and that is exactly what more of them are doing. America will not understand this crisis until a normal repair becomes impossible to schedule. A brake job that used to take a day turns into a week. A warning light becomes a diagnostic appointment 10 days away. A dealership with expensive signs, shiny floors, and rows of vehicles has nobody left to fix them fast enough. That is not bad luck. That is the result of an industry that charged customers more, paid technicians less than they were worth, buried young workers in debt, punished skill with flat rate, and treated burnout like weakness. Mechanics are not vanishing, they are choosing survival. The real shock is not that they are quitting. The real shock is that America thought they would stay forever.